Sports Extra.
Welcome into the 16 Sports Extra podcast. I'm Jackson Neill. That's Sabrina Hoover. And Sabrina, it's the best time of the year. It is sectional time. Postseason time is finally here for Indiana high school football. Can you feel it in the air?
You can feel it in the air. It's getting colder. You're like, it's a little nippy out, and it's time for playoffs, right?
Exactly. So we're just going to jump right into it right now. Class 5A, Class 6A, they have a week off because there's less teams in those brackets, so those will be next week. We'll break those down once next week gets going. But for now, let's just stick with Class 4A, and why not? Let's jump right into it.
Jump into it.
All right, let's take a look at some of these brackets, which I got off of Max Preps. Thank you so much, Max Preps. All right, first game up there, we have Plymouth going up against South Bend, Washington. I'm pretty intrigued by this matchup just because I've seen a lot of South Bend, Washington so far this season. My guy Jaden Lineberry's on the team.
I knew you were going to mention him.
Had to mention him. He punts, he catches everything, runs everything. He does everything for the team. So I think it's an interesting matchup, but definitely one for Plymouth, who's coming in on a 4-game losing streak. But they've had some other good performances so far this season, so I'm expecting them to win this game.
Especially against Michiana. I know we're going to talk about Michiana in a second, but that one Plymouth-Michiana game I went to at Plymouth, I mean, they hung in there. And, they defended well. Their offense kind of had some hard, time to get going. But defensively, they looked pretty dang good. So
Exactly. It's defensively, I mean, Michiana 28 points. The Cavemen team, we're going to talk about very, very explosive offense with that option attack. To hold them to just, 28 points is still pretty good. If South Bend Washington wants to win this football game, it's going to come from a guy like Lineberry. Like if that's the way they can win this football game. So Plymouth has to be focusing on him of don't let him get big plays on you, because if that happens, that's where Washington can win this football game.
Exactly. And I know we're going to talk about Michiana, but we got to talk about this Northwood game.
Yes.
This one's huge. I mean, Northwood, this was earlier this season. Michiana beat them by a point. This scares me. It doesn't scare me, but it's at Northwood, and it's going to be extra motivation for Northwood, knowing that they lost to them earlier this season. It was a tight game earlier this season. Michiana does have the weapons, but so does Northwood. It's going to be a really good game. Exactly.
And for Michiana, I mean, this is, we've talked about all season long that this is maybe the team that has, from the area, that has the best chance to go all the way to a state championship run. They talked about that in the preseason. They've been pretty open about that they think that they have the talent, and I would agree with that. Well, if you're going to go on a run like that, you need to beat good teams. And this opening round draw is very tough. Northwood, they might just be, 5-4 right now this season. But you mentioned that loss to Michiana by 1 point. They're within 10 points at, going against Concord. Lost to Warsaw 28-7. But I mean, these are teams that are 5A teams they're losing to. Like, these are really good teams they're losing to. They're beating the teams they need to beat, and usually by a lot. They're a very good team. And under Nate Andrews, he knows how to coach in the postseason. He knows how to get his team ready for this time of year where it's, okay, win or go home. That's going to make this a very, very tough matchup for Michiana. I still expect them to get the win because of how talented they are, and I really think this is their year. But I would not be shocked if Northwood gets this win, especially on their home field, which is a very tough place to play.
And I know I would argue, when they last played Michiana, I would argue they weren't to as good as they are right now. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of teams find their identity later on in the season, and I feel like Northwood is one of those teams that have gotten better, week after week.
I mean, that was back on September 12th. That game.
A lot changes.
and especially, we talk about it in college football, but I think especially in high school as well, over the course of a season, just how much it changes, a team changes. So I think this one, it's going to be a good one. This, to me, is kind of the game that I'm most looking forward to seeing this week in terms of, okay, who advances? Because I think even if Northwood pulls the upset, I think they're in a position where they could go on a run. They're a program, they're a team that knows how to do that.
I was going to say, they've done it before.
All right, let's stay in Class 4A, but going a little bit down the bracket right now. Wawasee going up against Northridge. We got to talk about our Northridge team. So this game actually just happened not too long ago, back on October 3rd. Northridge won big at Wawasee, 42-7. Northridge, the best 2-7 team in the state.
I was gonna say they've had some ups and downs, a lot of downs, but I mean, we talk about this team. They've had some really close games. I mean, a lot of those games were by like 2 or 3 points, something crazy like that.
So here's the stat that kind of shows you. So Northridge, yes, they're 2-7 this year, which does not sound good. Their point differential is -2. So they've scored 200 points and allowed 202. For reference, a team like Plymouth who's 3-6, so a game better than Northridge.
Right.
Their point differential is -112.
That's insane.
It doesn't make much sense. Like this Northridge team, like it doesn't. -2 and you have 7 losses, like that shows you just how, I mean, they've won big in the games they're supposed to win big, but they've also lost so close. Basically every single game they've lost almost has been a 1-score game, and it's against very, very good competition. I mean, we just talked about how good Northwood is and how tough it is to play at Northwood. They lost by 1 to them in overtime at Northwood.
And I will argue, a team like that, watch out in the playoffs, because even though their record doesn't show it in the regular season, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to play in the playoffs.
That is exactly right. That is exactly what I'm thinking about this Northridge team playing in the Northern Lakes. There's, with Concord, Warsaw, there's some 5A teams. They played really close. That prepares you for moments like this. So I would definitely keep an eye out. I expect them to win that football game. And then right below them, Riley versus St. Joe. We had St. Joe in our game of the week last week. South Bend matchup. I think we're expecting the Huskies to move on from this. If that's the case, Northridge St. Joe in the second round, that's a game where the St. Joe can't overlook that.
No, definitely not. And I think St. Joe has a bad taste in their mouth after that loss to Penn. I mean, Penn, they're dominant, right? They're a dominant program, but for South Bend St. Joe to have the regular season that they did was huge. But I think now in the postseason, it's like, all right, let's move on and let's just continue finding wins.
And you can't forget the fact that, I mean, yes, Penn won that game 38-6.
Right.
Penn's a 6A school.
Oh, yeah.
And a very good 6A school at that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, so it's, when you see those sometimes you see those regular season results and you think about them for the sectionals, just remember, okay, they're playing a team that's, 2 classes above them in that game. So St. Joe, still a very good team, still, I would say, one of the favorites, if not the favorite in this part of the sectional. Personally, I would love to see a St. Joe versus Mishawaka matchup. That's kind of the game I'm really hoping for.
Yeah.
But before then, if Northridge does what they did to Wawasee earlier this season, I think that could really happen. And then for Riley, if they want to pull up this upset in St. Joe, it's all going to be about scoring points. That's really what it comes down to. They've had some games this year where, they've kind of played it close when they lost to St. Joe's 21-6. But we've seen games where Riley's put up, 42 against New Prairie, 33 against Washington, 33 against Fort Wayne, double Waynes, love that. If they can put up some points, maybe that's their method to how they win this football game. But other than that, the St. Joe defense is just so dominant.
And I was going to say, for St. Joe as well, losing to Penn still helps them, right? I mean, you just mentioned it right there. Playing a team like that helps them.
I think it really gets them prepared for the postseason. Let's go down to Class 3A now. We have a couple of our local teams right here. John Glenn versus Calumet New Tech. All right, we're going to be completely honest. We don't know much about the opposing teams outside of our sectionals. Okay. So just a heads up on that if you're watching this from outside the Michiana region. We're definitely focusing on our Michiana area teams. And for John Glenn, I mean, this has been a rough season for them now for the Falcons. Just coming into this game 2-7, 1-4 in the INS. Those wins, one of the wins was back in week 1. The last one was at Jimtown back on September 12th. So it's been a little while since they've gotten a win. So it's kind of been a tough stretch for them right now. Yeah,
I'm looking at their schedule right here. Obviously they lose to Bremen by a point, and then LaVille, that's a shutout loss as well. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they can continue, but yeah.
I think, and then going up against Calumet at them, it's they're 5-4 this season. This is a spot for John Glenn. I think if they are able to pull up this win, I think that's a success right there for the Falcons.
Right.
Going over to Marion now at River Forest. Marion, maybe you can help me out with this. The entire season, they're another one of those teams that doesn't have a great record, but I just don't think their team matches their record. And maybe that's because they have such good skill position players like Terrence Lane, people like that. It feels like they always can make some big plays, but they just haven't been able to finish out some of these games.
And I know, talking to the head coach before the season even started, I mean, they lost so many players, due to graduation. So, I mean, that hurts definitely. They don't have the talent that they had last year. But you're right. I mean, they've had some aggressive games here and there, but it's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of put that together going forward.
It's just kind of a weird through their schedule, it's just like, okay, they beat Adams, who Adams is actually a pretty solid team this year. They beat them 21-0.
Like, in a shutout.
Yeah, that's a pretty good win for them right there. But then, they've kind of struggled in some of the close games, like losing at Washington, losing a close one in New Prairie. So it's been, losing at Riley this past week. It's kind of been a weird season for them.
Mm-hmm.
River Forest, they're coming in this game 4-5. We'll kind of see how they do. If Marion can get those skill position players in space, that's where I think if they want to do some damage in this game, I think that's where it would have to come through.
Yeah, and maybe they're like Northridge. You lose tight games and then you go off in the postseason. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. All right, let's stick in Class 3A right now. We got a couple more with Fairfield right there. They're playing Garrett. Fairfield, a team we haven't covered too much so far this season, but we're going to kind of see how they really match up. I'm thinking if they want to make a run, it's going to be down the bracket where they're going to really get, would have to really get the big wins.
Yeah, it looks like they're 3-6 overall, 0-4 in conference. So they've had not the best season so far. It looks like they actually took Garrett. Is it overtime earlier this season?
Mm-hmm. So that was a matchup that was pretty close. It's it's one of those ones where I think we're just kind of see how this one plays out. Sticking in Class 3A right now, Tippy Valley, they're going at Angola. Tippy Valley, a team where just looking at how they've done, they've really come on here at the end of the season, winning 5 straight games. That allowed them to finish 4-1 in conference, so they've got second place in the INS. All season we had talked about Bremen, and we're going to talk about them in 1 second here, getting all these close wins, and wow, this has been so great for Bremen. And then this past week, Tippy Valley beats them 31-7 to finish second place in the conference. So Tippy Valley, I'm interested to see how, they show up in this postseason because, they beat Plymouth. One of their losses came against Knox, a team that we think, can just kind of beat everybody. It's interesting. I'm curious to see how they put this all together.
Yeah, it looks like Angola's 4-5 as well. So, they've had some ups and downs in their season as well. But you're right, Tippy Valley, 7-2, pretty good to kind of end the regular season. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting way to kind of see how they put this all together. So I'm gonna keep a monitor on that because winning streaks at the end of the season that always goes well. Let's jump down to Class 2A right now with Bremen. Bremen, a team we've kind of liked talking about so far this season.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because what was their was it LaVille LaVille beat them, correct?
LaVille.
Oh wait, no, sorry. I'm talking about Knox. My bad. Knox, that was like their first win against Bremen, right? Forever.
Yes.
Earlier in the regular season. My bad. But other than like that 44-15 loss to Knox earlier this season, this team's been pretty dominant.
Yeah, no, it's been a team that has had some really interesting ones.
Yeah.
They were able to beat Jimtown 29-22, a 7-6 win at LaVille. That was kind of a fun one because it was and then John Glenn 15-14. It was a season for Bremen in terms of the middle of the schedule against their conference opponents, winning and just getting these kind of close wins. It was kind of a fun thing to see from that standpoint. And
I know I just mentioned Knox. I know that's a team that has been in their own little little area, right?
That's been one of those teams that have just been absolutely just kind of in their own path right there.
Exactly. So I feel like for Bremen to still face a team like that, that's still big. It's almost like that St. Joe Penn game. I know that's kind of not comparing it the right way, but you face a good team and then, it might help you later on. So. And
speaking of Knox, almost forgot them back up there in Class 3A. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
They're playing up against Jimtown this week. Jimtown's a team where, I like to see I like Cody Vincent there at the school. He's done some good things for them. I think that Lakeland win that's to end the regular season was a big moment for them. It was kind of they really had to fight for that win. That was good for them, but Knox is Knox this season. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah.
They've just been on a roll.
Yeah, then when they did face Jimtown earlier this season, 56-13, because we know Knox likes to put up points.
Yes. Sure. So Knox has scored 452 points this season as they are 9-0, only allowing 137. So what is that? A 3+315 point differential? That's
insane.
Plus 315 point differential when the most points anyone else in their conference has scored this season is 277. Like that is, they are on another level. Miles McLaughlin, one of the best
We got to mention him.
rushers in the country in terms of yards. Now this is kind of where they can show just how legendary they are. Because I think last year we talked about North Judson and comparing them to those Pioneer teams under Jack Kaiser, and they unfortunately couldn't get it done. This is kind of a year now for Knox where it's like, okay, they've literally run through their schedule.
Right.
Can they keep running? Can they keep running through
Literally running. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of an interesting thing. Now let's just wrap up. Speaking of, we just talked about LaVille a little bit. We're going into Class 1A. LaVille playing at Culver Community. Interested to see what LaVille can do right here. Again, another one of those teams in the INS where, some close wins, like at Jimtown, beating them in overtime, but losing that Bremen game by 1, just kind of playing games pretty close.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then again, started off the season with a shutout win over Triton, kind of got, a few losses here and there in the season. But again, it's kind of like a lot of teams that we have seen now in the regular season. It's like they end the regular season on a high note. So it's like, all right, are we finding the groove? Are we finding the pieces? So
that's one that we'll be interested to see. Then North Judson against South Central. North Judson, I mean, we remember them from last season, just, kind of rolling through that schedule. It was so incredible. They're 7-2 this season, so not as dominant as they were last year. A lot of the wins, closer, one possession games, but still to be 7-2 at this time of season is really, really impressive. South Central, they're 0-9. This is a game I think North Judson should probably win. They move on, and could we see them maybe make a run?
That would be really, really big. And of course, I'm just looking at their schedule right now. They lost to Pioneer 36-16 in the regular season. So again, one of those teams that, may find, I think they started the season with a loss to Knox and then rattled off a lot of wins, then ended the regular season with a loss. So it's like, every team has them. It's like, what? Is this going to make them better? So.
And losing 38-6 to Knox at this point does not seem that bad.
Does not seem bad at all.
Especially when Knox is a 3A school and you're a 1A school. Looking back at that result, that actually, I hate doing the good losses, but sometimes you're like, considering how Knox played the rest of their schedule against schools as big as them, that's kind of impressive.
I call that a win.
Yeah, that's kind of a win. All right, let's talk a little bit about Triton right here. Another school we don't get to talk about a lot outside of the postseason. They're hosting Southern Wells. The Trojans right now, they're 6-3. I mean, one of those losses was to North Judson at North Judson by just 3 points earlier this season. They did lose at Pioneer. Pioneer is one of those programs and one of those teams. They're 8-1 this season. I think everyone's kind of losing to Pioneer. That's just kind of how it works this season. But 6-3. Now they're going up against Southern Wells, who's just 2-7. This is a spot for Triton where I think they could maybe rattle off a win and kind of see where they go from there. A program for Andy Barker now in his first season at the school. It's a spot where I think they got a good draw, especially in that first round game.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they can do in that, especially again going up against a team that's 2-7 on the season. So
exactly. So that's actually all of the games that we have to talk about.
We just ran through all of them.
We just ran through all of them. We like to be efficient here on the 16 Sports Extra podcast. But yeah, that's all the games. Remember, you can catch a lot of the highlights, a lot of the recaps, all the scores you need to know coming up on Friday for 16 Sports Extra. Just Sabrina this week, unfortunately with the Notre Dame bye week. So it's just gonna be her, but she's gonna have everything you need to know on that front. And then next week, we're going to have 5A, 6A going to start playing. Yep. It's all happening, Sabrina.
I know, it doesn't stop, right? I mean, Notre Dame's on a bye, and it's like, okay, things are slowing down. Nope.
Yeah.
Next week's going to get even more crazy.
We're already starting. And then Michigan, they still start their postseason. Yes. They have their last week of the regular season this week.
Yep.
That now is Edwardsburg game we've kind of talked about. We're excited to see kind of the result of that. Mm-hmm. Takes a little bit less meaning now that Edwardsburg lost last week.
Right.
But still, that's a big one for a team like Niles, who has state championship aspirations. Mm-hmm. Can they just kind of keep on rolling, keep on putting up 42 or 49 points in every game?
Right.
We'll kind of see with that. All right, but that's going to wrap it up for the 16 Sports Extra podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.